Ibrahim Babangida legacy dialogue raised concerns about state of democracy in Africa. Former Vice President Namadi Sambo warns against conducts that could threaten the governance system in Nigeria. Key political actors ramp up their strategies ahead of the 2023 polls. Former President Obasanjo, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Governor Nyesom Wike and others meet in London. And PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar also meets with Wike and other leaders of the party in London. Atiku urges party members and supporters to shun statements that could jeopardize the party's unity.
On business news tonight, the Nigerian equities market hits a triple-digits gain as stocks extend rally in the penultimate trading session.
On sports news tonight, Karim Benzema and Alexia Putellas rewarded for outstanding seasons by winning the UEFA Men's and Women's Player of the Year prizes in Istanbul, Turkey.
And from Abuja, the Nigeria Diaspora Commission allays fears of Nigerians in diaspora over safety of their business interests in the country, raises a red flag on travel to northern Cyprus.
And in international news from London, Ukraine says a Russian rocket attack on a railway station killed 25 people on the day that marked 6 months since the invasion began.
Concerns about democratic regression in Africa and what must be done to consolidate the system of government on the continent formed part of key highlights of the 2022 annual legacy dialogue of former military President General Ibrahim Babangida, which held in Abuja today. The keynote speaker, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, decries the downward trend which he says democracy is gradually taking since 2010 and the threat that recent military coups in some African countries poses to democracy on the continent. However, other speakers at the event, including the former Vice President, Mr. Namadi Sambo, appealed to politicians to shun hate campaigns and other conducts that could threaten Nigeria's democracy.
The International Conference Center is full to capacity as family members, friends, top politicians and allies of the former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, converge for the second edition of this legacy dialogue in his honor. The dialogue is a retrospect on Africa's democratic journey, and the keynote speaker decries what he terms a retrogressive democracy in the continent since year 2010.
From 2000 to 2010, there were real efforts to live by the principles we had enunciated for ourselves. But since then, the downward trend accelerated. The issue about democratic regression is that it's a global trend. The challenge before us, therefore, is for each and every one of us to make efforts to continue this struggle for democratic consolidation.
Nigeria has held on to its democratic journey since 1999, and some of the speakers at this event have a strong opinion on the need to consolidate the gains made so far.
As we approach the critical stage toward the 2023 general election in Nigeria, it is important to use this opportunity to call on all political parties and indeed candidates and other key stakeholders to adopt issue-based campaigns. We must all shun the use of hate or foul language and mudsliding to avoid overheating the polity.
Next year's election campaign is a time for party politics. Now is the time for unity, for national togetherness, a time to forgive and forget the quarrels of the past. and to focus on the solutions for the future.
Since the return to democracy in 1999, there has been several efforts to improve the country's democratic process. And for some, the 2022 electoral law is a major boost to strengthening democracy in Nigeria.
The signing into law of the Electoral Act 2022 by President Muhammadu Buhari has far-reaching positive outcomes that will also strengthen the confidence of citizens in our electoral processes, leading ultimately to a more stable polity.
The panel session, which is co-anchored by Channels Television's Ladi Akeredolu Ali, highlights some of the dangers to democracy in Nigeria and the urgent need to address them. Nigeria's fourth republic since 1999 is the longest democracy the country has ever experienced since independence in 1960. And many hope that the 2023 general elections provides another opportunity to grow the country's democracy.
The political intrigue ahead of the 2023 general elections appears to be assuming different shades as the presidential candidates and other key political actors continue to strategize in the run-up to the crucial contest. A meeting involving former President Olusegun Obasanjo, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and Governor Nyesom Wike is set to have taken place in London today. A picture which surfaced online shows the others who were at the meeting, including the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, his Benue and Abia State counterpart Samuel Otom and Okezie Ikpeazu, as well as former Governor of Cross River State Donald Duke. Details of the reported meeting has not been made public, but it may not be unconnected with the ongoing realignment among key players in the political parties. This development comes amid a reported meeting between the River State Governor and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, who is said to be wooing Governor Wike to his party following the yet-to-be-resolved dispute between Mr. Wike and the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar. In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has also met with Governor Nyesom Wike in London. Both PDP leaders were earlier reported to have met in London yesterday, but the media aide to the PDP presidential candidate, Paul Ibe, told Channels Television that his principal travelled to Paris for a business meeting and not London as was reported. However, Mr. Atiku and Wike, alongside some governors and other PDP chieftains who appeared in an earlier picture with former President Obasanjo and Mr. Obi, could be seen together in another picture in London. In a statement earlier today, Mr. Ibe explained that Mr. Abubakar has called on PDP members and supporters to desist from statements that could compromise the party's unity. Part of the statement reads, "All the leaders of the party, including especially the Governor of River State, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, and all governors of the PDP are united in working for the victory of the PDP in next year's general election across board." He urged PDP members not to fall for what he describes as the antics of the APC. Into Borno State, where the police have sealed the new Nigeria People's Party secretariat in Maiduguri, denying officials of the party access to the office. The security agencies also arrested a party leader in the state ahead of the official unveiling of the office by the presidential candidate of the party, Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso, on Saturday. The state party chairman, Mohammed Mustafa, explains that the secretariat was sealed by the Borno State Town Planning Development Agency on the premise that it's a residential building not meant for office allocation, a position the police also confirmed.
Actually, there is a complaint against the hierarchy of the NNPP. I think I have their document here, and I have given approval for their activity. This is my endorsement, approved. And the issue is between the UNPP and urban planning. The UNPP wanted to open an office in Maiduguri, which is the state capital. And incidentally, they wanted to get an office within the metropolitan, and the urban development mandated them to go and look for a place and report back. But instead of reporting back, as they could not be able to get an office befitting of them, residential accommodation was converted to a political party office, having neighbors left and right and behind that may not belong to the same party, and the place is residential. There was a letter from the urban planning that the party officials should revert that property to its original purpose.
To other stories, the chairman of the Nigeria Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, has allayed fears of Nigerians in diaspora that their business interests in the country may be jeopardized by the protracted insecurity challenge in the country. Addressing State House correspondents at the weekly ministerial press briefing today, the NIDCOM chair admits that the country's issue is a source of concern, but is only temporary because of stiff measures currently employed by the federal government to tackle the situation. The NIDCOM chairman equally raised the red flag on travel to northern Cyprus. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mezoke reports.
After 47 sessions, the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, for the first time is anchor of the weekly ministerial briefing. Apprising Nigerians on the progress recorded in her 3 years in office, including the Diaspora Direct Investment and Housing for Nigerians in Diaspora, the chairman disclosed that $20 billion have been recorded as remittance by Nigerians in Diaspora. She believes even insecurity is no deterrent on investments of Nigerians living abroad, insisting that it is only a temporary challenge.
This insecurity, by the grace of God, is a temporary thing. With everything being put in place by the government, I posted something yesterday that all this one that NAF is bombarding, nobody's talking about it. So they come, some just come home to do things and they ensure that but these are Nigerians. There are many who don't even want any persuasion. They are coming on their own. They are Nigerians, they know their country.
She further reveals that all stranded Nigerians in Libya and Ukraine have been evacuated, while efforts have doubled to repatriate the 300 stranded in the United Arab Emirates. However, she raises a red flag on travel or study in northern Cyprus.
If you're going to northern Cyprus, think twice about it. Over 20 students have been killed over the years, and nothing happened. So these students came themselves and said they have to embark on awareness that don't go to these places. Northern Cyprus is recognized only by Turkey. It's not a UN-recognized nation. So if you run to Nigeria, we can't do much.
Incorporating the right of Nigerians in the diaspora to vote is one protracted advocacy the chairman is hoping the National Assembly would actualize.
Every time you see Parliament, talk to them and appeal. It's about lobbying and appealing and explaining those fears. For instance, they asked me, okay, the law says 12 to thirds. If the diaspora votes, where do you count that? And the answer is simple. Everybody comes from a state. So if a Lagosian votes in London, it goes to Lagos votes.
The NIDCOM chairman harps on the need to deconstruct the negative narrative brought on by frequent reportage of terrorism in the country, while also hoping that the federal government can ramp up funding for the commission so that it can implement many of its initiatives going forward. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, Lagos High Court restrains the state government from taking over and demolishing the remaining 2 Ikoyi high-rise buildings. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Speakers at the 2022 Ibrahim Babangida Legacy Dialogue raised concerns about the state of democracy in Africa. Former Vice President Namadi Sambo warns against conduct that could threaten the governance system in Nigeria. Key political actors ramp up their strategies ahead of the 2023 polls. Former President Obasanjo, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Governor Nyesom Wike and others meet in London. And PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar also meets with Wike and other leaders of the party in London. Atiku urges party members and supporters to shun statements that could jeopardize the party's unity. Plus, Ukraine says a Russian attack on a railway station killed 25 people on the day that marked 6 months since the invasion began. Into legal matters, the Lagos High Court has restrained the state government from taking over and demolishing the remaining 2 Ikoyi high-rise buildings constructed by Fourscore Heights Limited. Justice Adeomi Oshin ordered all parties in the suit to maintain status quo pending the hearing and determination of the suit filed by 15 subscribers of the various units of the flats, penthouses, terraces and apartments being constructed in 3 high-rise buildings at 44 Gerrard Road, Ikoyi. Of the 3 high-rise buildings, namely blocks A, B and C, one of them, Block B, consisting of 21 stories, collapsed in November 2021, killing 46 persons, while 15 persons were rescued alive. In the substantive suit, the subscribers, including a senior advocate of Nigeria, Wemimo Ogunde, a former cleric of the Redeemed Church, Pastor Aditola Odutola, and Oba-elect, Pastor Gandhi Olaoye, are seeking general damages of 200 million naira and another 50 million naira as the cost of filing the suit. The plaintiffs are contending that it is the failure of the Lagos state government and its officials to supervise the construction of one of the 3 towers in line with regulations that led to its eventual collapse. They claim that they invested over 15 billion naira in the property that was being developed by Fourscore Heights Limited, a company promoted by Femi Osibona, who also died in the tragedy. To Ebonyi State, where a federal high court sitting in Abakaliki, the state capital, has nullified the July 30th local government election conducted by the state's Independent Electoral Commission. Justice Fatu Rehman delivered the judgment today following a suit instituted by Collins Ileri, Honorable Nelson Eze, Aka Ikechukwu, Michael Ali and Isu Amechi against the Independent National Electoral Commission of the state and the government of Ebonyi State. The plaintiffs had asked the court for an order declaring as unconstitutional the decision of the second and third defendants to conduct local government election in the state without making available the laws and regulations of the said election. They also argued that the 3-year tenure of the current local government chairman and councillors in the state will expire August 2023 and that the third defendant lacks the power to appoint caretakers to run the affairs of the 13 local government areas in the state. After listening to the plaintiffs, Justice Rehman ruled that the election was undemocratic, unlawful, and shrouded in secrecy. Or still on legal matters, the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee says it has found no merit in recommending further investigations against the partners of the law firm of Wole Olanipekun and Co. on the alleged professional misconduct proceedings against one of their partners, Adekunbi Ogunde. Ms. Ogunde is at the center of an alleged client solicitation scandal in breach of the rules of professional conduct for legal practitioners. In a letter dated August the 19th, the Secretary of the LPDC, Daniel Teller, explains that the initial member review of the LPDC shows that since there is no evidence to show that the respondent, Adekunbi Ogunde, acted with the knowledge and consent of the principal partners of the firm, the applicant's prayer for an investigation of the law firm cannot be situated to both the Act and the rules. In June 2022, Ms. Ogunde admitted that she sent an email to Saipem Contracting Nigeria Limited to solicit a brief that was being handled by Ajumogobia and Okeke, the law firm of another senior advocate of Nigeria, Odeyin Ajumogobia. Let's now head to Abuja studios where Makwe Ogun Yusuf is standing by with more stories. Hi, Makwe.
Hello, Millicent. It's good to see you. Well, achieving the high ideals of the SDGs is where we kick off as a sustaining financial architecture that strengthens accountability and inclusivity in both the education and health sectors are crucial to meeting Sustainable Development Goals 3 and 4. These were the words of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, while speaking virtually at the official launch of the SDG 3 and SDG 4 independent evaluation reports in Nigeria, which was held at the banquet hall of the State House in Abuja. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, was there and now reports.
This is the first independent evaluation of the Sustainable Development Goals since the adoption of Agenda 2030 15 years ago at the United Nations General Assembly. And state actors, alongside international collaborators, are here to understand what progress has been made and what challenges still abound. According to the Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on SDGs, these evaluations are crucial to meeting Agenda 2030.
In this very profound moment, Nigeria has shown that the country can begin to look beyond evaluation in this context of global reporting through voluntary national reviews to embedding evaluation at national and local level to achieve transformative development.
There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals to be achieved by year 2030. This evaluation looks at SDG 3, which is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages, and SDG 4, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The United Nations Resident Coordinator highlights challenges Nigeria is facing in these two sectors that could cause the country not to meet Agenda 2030.
It is concerning to note that Nigeria is unlikely to achieve the global agenda for universal, inclusive, and equitable basic education for all school-aged children by 2030 if the current very low public investment into the education sector remains the same. Similarly, government resources for health financing are inadequate for the achievements of SDG 3 targets related to good health and well-being.
Implementation of the recommendations of the report is the next line of action, according to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and he proffers some strategies.
We look forward to the full and successful implementation of these recommendations in a holistic approach across the 4 thematic areas, in a way that maximizes positive health impacts for the poor and the most vulnerable groups in Nigeria.
That's it, the display there.
The speakers at today's event highlight the fact that the Nigerian government has done a lot, especially when it comes to access to healthcare and, of course, proper education, especially in rural areas. However, there's still many barriers out there that the Vice President says needs to be addressed if we're to meet Agenda 2030. From the Banquet Hall of State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
While staying with health, the president has given the assurance that Nigeria is ready for exploration and interaction between Nigeria biomedical scientists, officials of the Federal Ministry of Health, and biotech company to advance local production of vaccines in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance while receiving the executive chairman of KINAP Foundation and representative of the CEO of BioNTech, the mRNA vaccine patent holder in Africa, Mr. Home Keller, at the State House. He also noted that his administration has invested significantly in health, education, research, and development.
Build partnership, regional capacity in research and development, clinical trials, and capacity for in-country adequate manufacturing of items critical to our national health security. We are impressed with the numerous possibilities said to be around the mRNA technology and hence seek cooperation with well-intentioned organizations, including yours, to build a strong bilateral partnership with your company and your affiliate bodies as science gets closer to understanding the possibilities around successful mRNA technology. The BioVaccines Nigeria Limited, a public-private partnership company, and other private companies are at various stages of acquiring capacities for vaccines manufacturing in Nigeria. I have no doubt that you will have a productive interaction and agree to collaborate on many levels, from clinical trials to research and development of new vaccines, and eventually support vaccine manufacturing facilities here in Nigeria.
In other news, the Executive Vice Chairman of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, Professor Mohammed Haruna, is recommending ways to revive the nation's steel sector. He believes that the development of the steel industry in Nigeria is vital to the growth of the nation's automotive industry. Professor Haruna was speaking at the retreat of the National Steel Council in Abuja, where he also recommended the adoption of the public-private partnership model to fund the nation's steel complexes.
And mentored.
Following the inauguration of the National Steel Council, members of the council hold this inaugural retreat.
In 1994, equipment erected.
The guest speaker at this session is the Executive Vice Chairman of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, and the stalemate on the Ajaokuta Steel Company featured prominently in his presentation.
The Ajaokuta Steel was said to have reached 98% completion as far back as 1994. Had not produced a single steel till date. The steel plant phase has the capacity to provide direct employment for over 10,000 technical staff and indirect 500,000 for unskilled upstream and downstream employment if it is in operation.
According to World Steel Report, Egypt, South Africa and Algeria are the top steel-producing countries in Africa, while China, India and Japan lead the global chart as of December 2021.
This council must...
Professor Haruna believes the sector is key to improving the manufacturing sector and recommends ways to grow the industry.
Now, private sector can conveniently undertake such investment to fund steel complexes, but in PPP, private public partnership model, because it will not be commercially viable for a private sector to go wholly by itself. There is a lot of incentives that must be granted by government, and the government must patronize that product by blocking the entry of some foreign products.
This is the first time in 40 years that the council will be operational, and the leadership wants to hit the ground running.
First of all, carry out an audit of the assets, both underground and on top of the ground. I mean, like the steel plants and so on. We'll check audit of players in the industry, importers, exporters, millers, and so on. Then when we do that, we'll start from there. But the issue of mining is quite complex all over the world. We'll try our best.
The council is hoping to develop an action plan at the end of this retreat, which will be used to drive its mission of reviving the nation's steel industry.
And that's all from Abuja. It's back now to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Mark Bayogun Yusuf. And the federal government today received the draft white paper on Orosaye report submitted by the Committee on Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Parastatals, Agencies and Commissions created between 2012 and 2021. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, who received the report in Abuja, commended the committee for the completion of the assignment within the timeline given to them. The committee was headed by a former head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Mr. Ebele Okeke.
It is important to note that the high cost of governance in Nigeria and revenue challenges being experienced in the midst of competing societal demands are of serious concern to the federal government. Therefore, all that is necessary will be done to ensure that no sector is neglected. I have no doubt in my mind that the knowledge, experience, and expertise members brought to bear in the course of the assignment would guide the federal government in addressing the high cost of governance and other associated problems. It is also commendable that the committee was able to complete the assignment within the 6-week time frame given to them, which further demonstrate the seriousness and passion members conducted the work. I want to express the federal government's gratitude to the chairman, Engineer Bele Okeke, CFR, and all members of the committee for their commitment and steadfastness.
Should I also say that Engineer Okeke is a woman? To other stories now. The House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Fuel Subsidy Regime is asking the Acting Accountant General of the Federation to appear before it to explain the remittances of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation into the Federation account from 2013 till date. The directive became necessary as the committee turned back the Director of Federation Accounts at the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Mohamed Saleh, who represented the Attorney General of the Federation. Mr. Okoliabo Silva at today's seating in the National Assembly. The chairman of the committee, Mr. Ibrahim Aliyu, said the representative of the AGF, in this case the Accountant General of the Federation, beg your pardon, could not answer some of the committee's queries.
Speaking about the people.
The AGF, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federations, had to make appearance on the 8th of September. Why? Because we realized that there's need for them to go and put their house in order so that we can properly engage them. Already the submissions they made were based on the earlier requests from this committee on the issues that have to do with subsidy and subsidy payments and other remittances from the NNPC to the Federation account from 2017 to 2021. The second mandate of the committee extended the period to cover the years of 2013 to 2022. So you see, even at that, they need to update the committee of their submission so that we can properly engage them. We have witnessed the interaction, and you see they appeared ill-prepared. So we hope by that time they will be well prepared to answer most of the questions, or all of the questions that will be raised.
And to the ongoing ASUU strike, the National Association of Nigerian Students is asking members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to reconsider their stance in the interest of students. NAN's president, Comrade Sunday Asefon, says the federal government and ASUU need to urgently reach a compromise on the no work, no pay rule in order to end the industrial action. He was speaking in Abuja at an event to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the students' body. And to security. In its resolve to put an end to insecurity in Nigeria, the Chief of Defense Staff says kinetic and non-kinetic strategies recently applied by the military forces are yielding the desired results. General Loki Rabo explained that residents of troubled areas also need to warm up to security agencies and give information that will assist in fishing out the bad elements in the community. He was a guest at a lecture organized by the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, in Victoria Island, Lagos. The event is in continuation of the series of engagements in the solution-driven lectures in major developmental areas put together by the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, in Lagos. Gathered here at the NIIA Hall are ambassadors, scholars, traditional institution, and very senior officers. No doubt an avenue to throw up issues bordering on national, zonal, and sectoral security. The Director General of the NIIA opens the discussion on the need for the series and why security is in focus.
What we are doing as an institute is to say we must devise very, very strategic responses. And we think that there are many ways that we can approach the responses that we give. But the key one is to see how we can domesticate some of those things because, as they say, prevention is key to defense. You have heard in local parlance, we say that prevention is better than cure. So rather than go to war, let us see if we can stop war and if we can stop conflicts and so on.
In his lecture, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, highlights 4 contending issues synonymous with Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones in the last 4 decades and ways solutions are gradually being found.
Because of the low literacy rate and the fact that at the outset of the counterinsurgency operation that we're conducting, that a good number of the elites in the Northeast who, of course, do not believe in the military action that we're undertaking. So rather than give support to the government security agencies that were responsible, they rather supported, well, not necessarily overtly, but covertly, gave support to the criminals. So I am looking ahead where we will bring technology to bear in the management of our borders, in addition, of course, to fiscal structures that need to be established across the length of our borders. Yes, of course, the initial resources required for this might be mind-blowing. But I like to say that the gains from it, going forward, will be huge, such that it will trump the cost that we have actually put into establishing it.
As security forces strive at curbing various security challenges that have bedeviled major parts of the country over the years, Nigerians are expected to do more through their cooperation and making information readily available at all times. Let's take you back to our earlier story on the ongoing ASUU strike as we hear from the NANS president, Comrade Asefon, who says the federal government and ASUU urgently need to reach a compromise to end the industrial action.
ASUU need to see reasons of why they should go back to class. Yes, we have been supporting ASUU, we have been supporting their struggle because we know most of those things that they are asking for are genuine. But at this junction, if truly that what ASUU is asking for, that if ASUU is saying that if the 6-month salary is not being paid, they will not go back to class, automatically ASUU is not directly insincere to Nigerian students. It shows ASUU does not have the interest of Nigerian students at heart. Yes, we are not saying they should forfeit their 6-month salary. And also, we have also urged the federal government to make sure that if there's any agreement that they have reached with ASUU to fulfill it, which some of it has been, done. But we are calling on ASUU. Yes, this 6-month salary, we are not saying they should forfeit it. We are not saying the federal government should not pay it. But ASUU should also find a means, another way that they can agitate for this 6-month salary without keeping us at home. We have stayed at home for 6 months. We were at home for over 7 months in 2020. Again, in 2022, we have been at home for another 7 months. So you look at it, our colleagues in private university have gone ahead of us.
To all the stories now. Information and communication technology plays a big role in the oil and gas sector, from enhanced oil recovery to real-time visualization of oil wells, hence the need for local solutions. Well, that's coming from the representative of the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Mr. Patrick Oba, who was speaking at the opening ceremony of the Nigerian Content Consultative Forum ICT Sectoral Group Workshop in Lagos.
In a world where changes are being driven by the 4th industrial revolution, which really is a fusion of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, and the Internet of Things, among other technologies, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board says it's not resting on its oars, but it's encouraging the deepening of indigenous ICT players in the nation's oil and gas sector.
We intend to listen to your voices in the oil and gas community, who are duly represented here by the key stakeholders of the sector. And we, in turn, will attempt to offer a range of ideas to consider as a guide to the voices of the stakeholders from whom we seek solutions to our capacity challenges.
The role of technology in doing business more efficiently is what drives the local content agency.
ICT plays a huge part in enhanced oil recovery, from real-time visualization of oil wells to gathering huge amount of data on oil fields, not only to improve productivity, but for security controls, also, especially in areas where there is so much insecurity but has so much oil reserves.
Providing sustainable solutions to meet local content challenges will involve a key component, capacity development aimed at picking new skill sets.
These new roles, such as Internet of Things, architects, data scientists, cybersecurity specialists, NIDA recently introduced local content guidelines to achieve 50% local content, targeting companies operating in the ICT sector.
The guest speaker assures those present of a robust interagency collaboration to further solidify the outcomes of the event.
The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, through our relevant agencies, looks forward to partnering with the NCDMB to create a platform where we can pool resources together to encourage indigenous talents to come up with innovative solutions. No doubt this partnership will help to give the oil and gas industry a new lease of life.
When the meeting is over on the 26th of August, the NCDMB will be content to know that it has provided a platform for ICT practitioners in the country to benefit from the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act, which encourages the provision of ICT goods and services in the oil and gas sector.
Some company news now. An iconic billboard that is described as the largest in the world will birth in Lagos, October 2022. Speaking at the pre-launch event, the managing director of Lona Media, Idoko Ilona, promoters of the billboard called One Infinity, says the outdoor medium is a game changer for the advertising industry.
Unleash your advantage. That's the new campaign coming to town in October 2022. It's on a medium set to take Nigeria and the world of outdoor advertising by storm.
Now, between the time we started and now, the biggest board in the world is 6,223 square meters. That is in Dubai. So what Lona is doing is 10,541 square meters, which makes it the biggest.
After 6 years in the making and located on the third mainland bridge axis with an enviable 12-story building height, the multi-billion naira One Infinity is targeted at clients who believe in value for money.
For the activation, like I said, we have 75 unique spaces to be sold. So we want the best company, the biggest company in Nigeria to be part of this activation. Unleash your advantage. Show the world who we are. And I'm pleased to announce that an indigenous company in Nigeria, Zenith Carriers, has just made payment for 2 spots.
With each unipole size space available for a 30-day lease, the static bud comes with a twist on the display area.
The display area of this board is 8,322 square meters. The lighting system reduces light emission by almost 70%. And it gives opportunity to creatives to be able to enhance their campaign. You are able to animate your campaign from being a still banner to a place that you have an illusionary motion on the campaign you're running.
Lona Media, the promoters of One Infinity, is the foremost out-of-home advertising company in Nigeria. Established in 2006, the company says it's big on delivering premium media services.
Time for some business news now. Here's Anne Waldo.
So simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. We begin with reports coming from the Nigerian Ports Authority showing containerized imports received in Nigerian ports for the first 6 months standing at 849,175. That's 20 equivalent units. And according to the acting national president of the Association of Nigeria Licensed Custom Agents, Mr. Kayode Farito, the volume of cargoes imported has been on the decline due to constraints at the port. Mr. Farito was a guest on Business Morning program earlier today. The UK has recorded zero fuel import from Russia for the first time since 1997. Latest figures coming from the Office of the National Statistics show that the UK had already achieved its goal of phasing out Russian oil and natural gas imports. And now we head to the domestic market, where it sustained the bullish sentiment for a second day in a row by buying interest in large cap stocks drove the index to triple digits close today. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. Well, the local bourse rose sharply beyond expectations today. Yeah, and it's a big move, even bigger than the over 1% loss earlier this week. We see the all-share index added 2.03%, closing at 49,661 points, getting close to that 50K level. Market cap, 26.78 trillion naira. Well, and this time it's the August Vista stock making its presence felt this month. Talking about Airtel Africa at about 134 naira to close up 7%. And we also see Boa Foods added to that gain, even though the company announced the resignation of one of its board members today, and Nestle also added to that. Let's look at the activity chart there. We see the activity chart now. Less buying pressure than yesterday. Volume traded 226 million units, valued at 2.76 billion naira, and we see deals in the red at 3,515. So not much buying pressure like we saw yesterday. Gainers. CWG closing at 99 kobo, up 10%. Learn Africa, not seen this on the top gainers list for a while, closing at 2.47 kobo. We see Multiverse, 2.30 kobo. Let's see what's happening with the losers counter. The M Benefit topping that counter there, 28 kobo, down 9.68%. And we see the duo of Honeywell Flour and Flour Mill there on the losers counter. Honeywell Flour closing down 8.42% and Flour Mill 7.06%. Well, positive market breadth today, about 18 gainers against 11 losers. And final trading there tomorrow. Let's see if we can clear the 50K level, talking about the all-share index. And that's the stock market report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
Thank you, Laddie. Well, let's check out closing numbers from other markets around the world. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Back to you, Millicent.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. Ukraine State Nuclear Agency says the final pair of working reactors at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant has been disconnected from the power grid as nearby fires interfered with overhead power lines. This comes after the killing of 25 people by a Russian rocket strike on a railway station. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A Russian rocket strike on a railway station killed 25 people, Ukraine says, on the day marking 6 months since Moscow's invasion began. Officials said 5 of the victims of the attack in the eastern town of Chaplina burnt to death in a vehicle. 2 boys, aged 6 and 11, were also killed. A further 31 people were hurt. Russia said it hit a military train, killing hundreds of Ukrainian troops, but Ukraine has made no mention of military deaths in the strike. President Volodymyr Zelensky reported the strike during a UN Security Council meeting and said Russia would pay the price for the attack. Japan's police chief has said he will resign over the killing of the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Itaru Nakamura, head of the National Police Agency, said he wanted to take responsibility for the July the 8th shooting. An investigation has found there were serious flaws in how the ex-Prime Minister was protected. Mr. Abe was shot while speaking at a political campaign event in the city of Nara. A Pakistani court has extended former Prime Minister Imran Khan's pre-arrest bail for 1 more week in a terrorism case over a speech shortly after the former premier appeared in court. The former premier maintained after the hearing that he said nothing wrong in the speech last week. Khan's lawyer later said bail had been granted until September the 1st. Police filed charges on Saturday against the former cricket star and national team captain Khan over what they said was a threat when he spoke about police torture of an aide who faces sedition charges for inciting mutiny in the military. Floods triggered by incessant rains in central India have battered most of the region, destroying crops and paralysing everyday life for many. Farmlands, as well as residential areas, were seen submerged in floodwaters after heavy rains caused the Betwa River to overflow in the city of Vidisha. Farmers said that almost all of the crops had been destroyed because of the heavy rainfall, and hundreds of hectares of agricultural land, mainly wheat, was underwater. Around 300 villages have been affected by the floods. Meanwhile, Typhoon Maon has brought heavy rains and flash floods to southern China. Vehicles were seen moving through roads inundated in floodwater in Hainan province. Maon had made landfall earlier in the day, first in the southern province of Guangdong, with wind speeds of up to 73.8 miles per hour recorded by the provincial meteorological station. The 9th cyclone of the season was thought to be weakening and had been downgraded to a tropical storm. The iconic Levanta cloud that drapes over the Rock of Gibraltar provided a stunning backdrop as flights arrived and departed below the rock into Gibraltar International Airport. Time-lapse video posted by the local Met Office in Gibraltar, a British overseas territory between southern Spain and Morocco, shows the cloud as an EasyJet plane takes off. According to the Met Office, the Levanta cloud is produced by an easterly wind which brings warm, moist air from the Mediterranean, which condenses over the rock, creating a persistent veil of cloud that hangs over it. And finally, Ivory Coast has created the country's first locally made smartphone, which aims to improve accessibility with voice commands in local languages for users who can't read or write. The phone, called OpenG, went on sale last month in the West African country. It can understand commands and respond in 16 of Ivory Coast's approximately 60 spoken languages.
Bonjour. Donc, on va choisir le Jula.
The founder said he was inspired to create the phone after watching his parents, who are illiterate, struggle to use a smartphone. OpenG's developers said they've already sold several thousand units after only a few months on the market. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Karim Benzema and Alexia Putellas have been rewarded for outstanding seasons by winning the UEFA Men's and Women's Player of the Year prizes at a ceremony in Istanbul today. Our front striker Benzema captained Real Madrid to victory over Liverpool in the Champions League final in Paris and scored 15 goals in the competition. Putellas was the top scorer in the Women's Champions League, helping Barcelona ladies reach the final, which they lost to Lyon. FC Bayern Munich have been drawn in the same group as Robert Lewandowski's Barcelona in today's draw for the UEFA Champions League group stage in Istanbul, while Erling Haaland will face his former club as Manchester City were paired with Borussia Dortmund. Bayern and Barca will also come up against Inter Milan in Group C, which is completed by the Czech champions Victoria. Meanwhile, Chelsea, winners in 2021, will take on Serie A winners, that's AC Milan, as well as a Red Bull in the Red Bull Salzburg, that is, and Dinamo Zagreb in Group E. Well, that's a wrap on sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The former Vice President Namadi Sambo today warned against conducts that could threaten the nation's governance system. The former Vice President and other speakers at the 2022 Ibrahim Babangida Legacy Dialogue also raised concerns about the state of democracy in Africa. That's News 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Minister Mwaka. Have a good night and stay safe.